Cowboys trade talks are escalating as we have two brand new trade targets for the Dallas Cowboys that have just been revealed in the latest Bleacher Report article. We talk about that, plus, is Mazi Smith's time in Dallas limited? It seems that way. We'll give you the latest Cowboys news and rumors right here on Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. We've got a lot to discuss on three guys of interest in the latest Bleacher Report article, here with a weekly rendition of the 2025 NFL Trade Block Big Board, this time entering Week 3. As I mentioned, three players on this list are potential interest for the Dallas Cowboys, one of which has been a weekly occurrence through the previous 2 weeks, that being defensive tackle of the Cowboys, Mazi Smith. Seems like his position has been taken over by Kenny Clark, and the Cowboys have had him as a healthy and active throughout the past 2 weeks. We'll tell you what Christopher Knox said in this article about Mazi and what the expectation is moving forward for him. With that being said, though, I want to go into the two trade targets first as we go to the Cleveland Browns organization and look at running back Jerome Ford, who was listed as a potential trade target for the Dallas Cowboys. You see here the potential suitors for him, Cowboys and the Chiefs, and an intriguing target for a multitude of different reasons. We first start with Christopher Knox's dedication and kind of talking about him. Here is his quote, saying, "Ford, though, seems to be falling out of favor in Kevin Stefanski's offense. He saw just 7 touches in Week 1, and was mostly in a receiving back role in Week 2. He did have 5 catches, though, in Week 2. He's an interesting spot for me because similar to Mazi Smith, they have a younger player, or not a younger player, but a player that came in and took the spot in Quinshon Judkins. There are people that Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, look to be more favorable assets to him than Jerome Ford. So with that being said, would the Cowboys actually like to make this move? Well, that's where the Cowboys' running back room becomes a bit of a question. Let's go quickly into Christopher Knox and what he said, though, about Jerome Ford once again, saying, quote, "With Ford set to be a free agent in 2026, the Browns may take what they can get for him now. That may not be a lot, but Ford has breakaway speed and has topped 500 rushing yards in each of the past 2 seasons." End quote. This is true for a multitude of reasons about why he would be a decent fit. He's consistent, he's healthy, he's been out there on the field, and he has a lot of good qualities. The thing that I look at, though, in terms of how he would fit with the Dallas Cowboys organization, if we pull up his stats here, I kind of want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys situation. Javonte Williams has been far better than what any Cowboys fan could have expected in training camp and has been the bell cow back. Behind him, though, I have my own opinions on Miles Sanders. I don't think he deserves a roster spot. I know he scored a touchdown this past week. I just still don't think he is worth it. I think he's older and his time has come. But with that being said, Phil Maffa, a rookie running back, is on IR right now and has the potential to return in Week 5. So with that, you could easily swap out Phil Maffa and cut Miles Sanders. Maffa could go on the practice squad. There's a couple of different decisions there. You could also just keep Maffa on IR. But I think Jerome Ford still has a place in this offense, and it's not in the running room because his carries are just meh. But I think he'd be actually a very good receiving back for this Dallas Cowboys squad. 5 receptions in this past week against Baltimore for 23 yards with a long of 12. And that's not super impressive, but to me, the Cowboys don't really have a receiving back. I like Javonte Williams. I think he can catch the ball well. I just like him to be the every down back, and in that case, I want an extra receiving back to kind of take those duties. I do not trust Miles Sanders whatsoever, and if we can get Jaden Blue, he could easily be a receiving back as well. But I think the question remains, how much do the Cowboys organization, how much do Cowboys fans trust Javonte Williams, / is it worth it to go out there and get a guy to maybe take the load off of Javonte a bit by helping out with that? Now, Jerome in the most previous season had 14 games of 104 rushing attempts, totaling 790 yards with a good yards per attempt of 5.4. Also had 37 receptions and a long rush of 66. He's got a lot of good qualities. He's only 26 years old, and I do think he'd actually be a good target for the Dallas Cowboys, especially when you look at what he would cost. If you see here at the bottom of your screen, it'd be a conditional 2026 7th round pick. That's easy. That's so easy. I mean, I know there's been some good 7th round picks. Jay Toia this year was a 7th round pick, I believe. So that would be a perfect slot to kind of think, well, we got Toia, and is Jerome Ford really better than him or worth more than him given it's 1 year left on his contract? Maybe. And at the same time, Javonte Williams only signed a 1-year deal. If he continues to ball out in the way he does, are the Cowboys going to want to pay him probably upper market money for a running back? It's to be seen. But with that being said, let me know what your thoughts are on Jerome Ford down in the comment section. But another guy I want to look at here is Jaelan Phillips. He's an edge rusher for the Miami Dolphins. Both these targets, as you would notice, are on 0-2 teams. That is a pretty normal thing to see on this weekly article. Any team that is not going to be doing well, that's the team you're probably going to look at for potential trade targets to be sent off. So let's talk about Jaelan Phillips real quick from the perspective of Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report. He says, quote, impending 2026 free agent Jaelan Phillips is just one of the potential trade chips in the Dolphins. The Dolphins could look to cash in before the trade deadline. Though injuries have limited the 26-year-old in recent years, Phillips recorded 22 sacks over his first 3 seasons, end quote. The big thing that I see here, Jaelan Phillips is an edge rusher and has a lot of good qualities. Like they said, injuries have kind of been a little bit of a plaguing thing for Phillips. But I do think he actually might be a good fit for Dallas for one specific reason, only one specific reason. If Jadeveon Clowney and that signing does not work out, which it very well could, the edge rushing room could use a guy like Jaelan Phillips, a younger guy to come in and really kind of, I would say, be a spark in some ways. He fits what the Dallas Cowboys are willing to spend. Obviously, as you see here, the Cowboys were listed as a potential suitor for him. And if we go to what it would take, you can see a 2026 4th-round conditional pick. A little higher than Jerome Ford, a little more useful than Jerome Ford, a little more younger than Jerome Ford on top of it. So I'm a little less on the Jaelan Phillips trade. I think that he is less of a piece that I would like. However, at the same time, I do think that he would help in certain situations. Also, I think if injuries come in and do that, it does kind of make a different situation as well. So we talked about the 2 trade targets. Now, I want you to let me know in the comment section, is there one that you would rather see the Cowboys go out and trade for? Would you like them to trade for Jerome Ford or Jaelan Phillips? If you want to trade for Ford, type F for Ford. If you want them to trade for Phillips, type P for Phillips. Which one would you rather see put the star on their helmet? Let me know down in the comment section. Personally, I'm going to go with Jerome Ford. I've had less concerns about the edge rushing room. I think the depth there is good. Phillips for sure creates a very good piece, and you pair him with Nealon and Williams, you've got a pretty deadly edge rushing combination. Not to mention if Jadeveon Clowney does work, I have my whereabouts. Dante Fowler Jr. has not exactly been up to expectations, or at least my expectations. So I think Phillips would be okay, but Ford to me seems like the better option because I really do want a receiving back, not having to put Javonte Williams in that position. And it seems like they just don't trust Jaden Blue really at all just yet. I mean, he's a rookie. It makes sense, but I doubt we're going to see much of him. And in that case, we're really not going to see much of him in a pass-catching role. The last guy I want to talk about, it's a guy that I mentioned at the top of the show. Mazi Smith, for now the 3rd straight week, has been listed on this as a potential trade target for other teams. Ranked number 7th on the list, the defensive tackle, former 1st-round pick. Now, same as last week, the price for Mazi Smith is still a conditional 6th-round pick, which it's not much, but for the Cowboys at this point, they are not really doing much. Like, it's very much a time where they're saying we need to see more consistency, which in my mind, I've covered the NFL for a couple years now. When I hear that, I'm hearing, okay, they don't trust him. They have other people out there that they'd rather play, and that's fine, but in that case, you got to find something from Mazi Smith, whether it's a trade. There was talk about releasing him at the beginning of the season, so if you can get anything from him, I'm taking it. Here's what Christopher Knox had to say about it. Quote, the arrival of Kenny Clark via the Micah Parsons trade has essentially made Smith an afterthought. The fact that Dallas has a mostly new coaching staff this season does nothing to brighten his future with the franchise, end quote. Now, if you've been following this topic for a while, you've been following this channel for a while, you know that for Mazi Smith, he has been changed and molded and moved and had to do it across 2 coaching staffs as well. He's gone from 1 tech, 2 tech, 3 tech, all the different things, got him more weight, made him drop weight, trying to make him more agile, and none of it seems to work. They want this, they want that, and it never seems to come to fruition. So I think I'm going out there and I'm trading him. I think I'm not really worrying about, okay, are we ever going to use this 1st-round pick? Like, I'm kind of done. I think that the time has come where we can say, you know what? We tried. It's a 1st-round pick. It's a bust. It stinks. You've got Demarion Overshown coming back, hopefully before Thanksgiving, with a new injury update on that. I think in some ways it's not the right mindset to have, and I understand this, but if Demarion Overshown is coming back faster than expected, and he can play to the level that he played in for a decent part of last season, you can maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with releasing or trading Mazi Smith and saying, you know what, we had a bust. Whatever. We had a bust. We got this guy that's going back, though. One of our picks that we trust, like, and want him to be on the field. I know they're different positions. I'm not saying that light, but I think it's just a way that Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, the entire Cowboys front office can kind of basically convince themselves to give up on Mazi Smith, because the comments, I've heard them, their statements around there, I just don't see what the point is of keeping Mazi Smith around anymore. But again, not our decision. We'll have to wait and see what the decision is made. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments section. Do you think it's time to move on from Mazi Smith? Would you like to trade for Phillips or Ford? Let me know down that in the comment section below. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on the show. For now, guys, peace out.